Hello and welcome to another episode of Galactic Goddess Podcast. And this is not just any episode. This is the January 2019 with Miss Sarah Paash, our evolutionary astrologer. We're so grateful to have our in-house astrologer giving us the forecast for the beginning of the year. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm so glad to be here, and I'm super excited to get started with 2019. There's all sorts of fun stuff in the works.
Yes. The themes, well, we were talking about this just a few minutes ago. One of the themes is dun dun dun, dun ego death.
Well, we have eclipse season starting off right away in January. So with the North Node in Cancer and South Node in Capricorn, 2019 eclipses are going to be here. So yeah, I mean, ego death in the sense of I think we're dying to old systems and structures of authority and climbing the corporate ladder or just, moving to just get ahead. That kind of divine masculine wound is definitely coming up, and we can see it everywhere. All the power structures are all being resurfaced, and
Yes.
the dynamics, the hidden, the secrets, the manipulations, all of that. The South Node is the point of release, of karmic, healing and letting go and moving away from. And so in order for us to heal, we have to be able to see what it is first. And yes, we're definitely moving through some territory of demolishing old ways of doing things, old, motivations and systems, but for the benefit of a more interconnected, way of living our lives, a way of approaching our work, not just our relationships. But I think it's going to be more about bringing all of that kind of collective ascension we've been going through and applying it into our work in the world.
It sounds like a tower moment, because with two eclipses, I mean, you're going to have some towers. But in the tarot deck, the tower moment is the tower where people are falling out of the tower and there's a lightning. But it's not, for me, I always say it's like a reset. We're doing a hard reboot is what it feels like. The beginning of the year, it's like you're pressing down on the computer and you're rebooting it. All systems need to get realigned to the divine, and any of the corruption, the junk, we get infiltrated in our computers with viruses and we have to clean them out. And I feel like so much of our structures have so many energy viruses, what I call energy viruses, mind viruses, all of this stuff that causes ultimately detonation to the old. So we need to just accept that this is coming to a head, and I'm excited. I love big astrological events because I know that we're shifting. We're being forced to shift, because so much of the shift has to be collective. It can't just be 100,000 people are making the shifts internally and in the world, and then the rest is just doing the same thing over and over. We have to reset together. And so I think these are opportunities for us to have massive breakthroughs. But let's go deeper. I'd like to hear your explanation of an ego death.
Well, I want to say first that the whole system updating and literally getting a new update and hitting download. I literally had that image when I was looking at the astrology for January. It was systems updating. And if we think about the ruler of Capricorn, Saturn, the taskmaster, that's really where we look for the medicine in this moment, in this transition. It's really showing up and doing the work day to day, moment to moment. And really just putting our money where our mouth is, that saying. So the ego death comes, I think this month it's going to come from witnessing maybe those, like you said, viruses or those glitches in our system where we're still kind of being driven by, unconscious fear, insecurity, or a need to, like I said, get ahead or be first. This January astrology it's active, and it's asking us to be a really a humble like student, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and also like taking action, like learning. I think good sportsmanship is going to be coming up because it's going to be a lot about being willing to show up day to day and do the work that might feel like loss because it's not immediately gratified. It's not immediately,
Mm-hmm.
um, the results aren't immediate. It's not like we're
Mm-hmm.
going to crash the tower and then we're going to build it in a second. I think with
Yeah.
technology and everything, we want to do things so fast, but I think this is really the astrology is laying the groundwork for the long run. So really,
Mm-hmm.
and I think all we can do, it's a collective shift, like you said, but it's also like not being too focused on what everyone is or is not doing collectively, and really taking personal responsibility this month. And
Mm-hmm.
I think prioritizing, we always do New Year's resolutions around this time. And the astrology wants us to get really clear because the eclipses, obviously, it's like fake train, so everything's happening really fast. You want to make sure that when the opportunities come or the changes are sweeping through, that you have a really clear vision of the direction that you're moving towards. So you have a clear yes and a clear no,
Mm-hmm.
because we can't say yes to everything. I think that's going to be something that's coming up. One of the major things that's happening in 2019 overall is this Jupiter square Neptune and Saturn sextile Neptune.
Mm-hmm.
All three planets are in their home sign, so they all have all of their resources, all of their strengths. And I think with Jupiter square Neptune, it's kind of like this learning curve of like empty excess, like wanting just too much, like saying yes to too many things, and just expanding, expanding, expanding. But it's like this emptiness to it. There's kind of like a missing kind of groundedness. And I think that's where the Saturn medicine is really going to be in 2019 is like the people who really choose moment to moment for the things that are building the structures that they want to like live their lives in, you know, the value system, the priorities, like that's going to be paid off. And yeah, I think just discernment, I think ego death, like being able to say no, even though there might be the temptation to say yes, because you might get that award or you might get that promotion or you might get, you know, a date with somebody, but it's like, if you don't, it doesn't feel like truly resonant all the way through.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think owning that.
That makes so much sense. It sounds to me like, in a way, it's like, yeah, coming back to the basics, like not overextending yourself because for what we consider like the reward, you know, we want the long term, we want the big picture goal. And that's what I'm seeing. Like the big picture is slow and steady. You know, we make progress every day, a little bit every day, a little bit every month. We're going for the big picture. And that means like letting go of a lot of the quick like rewards or quick fixes. We live in a culture that really thrives on quick things, like, oh, if I put a picture up, I'm going to get quick likes, or I'm going to get quick results on dating apps, or quick, whatever's quick and easy. And I think we're realizing that like that's not sustainable. What is sustainable is like slow and steady, but steady wins the race, you know. And also patience. I think so much patience and compassion for the new year, because I do feel energetically there's huge shifts all around us. Like it's coming, you know. Astrology is something I learned from you, but but energetically it just feels like there's like a slow I don't know, cycle going around us. And it's like a washer, and we're just we're in the slow slow and
we're
steady.
Getting cleaned up.
Yes.
we're getting like cleaned. Yes. And I think, yeah. And I think coming back to the idea of slow and steady too, is like being willing to like make a mistake and learn from it. Like, I think that there's something with that as well, as like, we also live in a society where it's like, how do we deal with disappointment and failure? And the ego death is like throwing these tantrums because it's not going your way, or it's not working the way you intended for it to work out. I think that's really like the personal integrity, the personal responsibility that's coming up. And I think it's like, you're responsible for you, you know, like it's almost, I have this image of like, we're like raising ourselves, like like we are our own parents. And I think that that's the
I love
collective theme of like the Cancer Capricorn dichotomy is the mother father, you know? And so it's like really this relationship with, and we felt it already in the Cancer full moon just this past week. Definitely all of those themes were coming up, the family dynamics, the inherited roles of mother, father. And really it's like, how do you show up for yourself, and like having the discipline and also having like the structures in place. You build these muscles, like you said. It's like going to the gym and exercising. You don't start with the biggest weight the first time you go, and you don't like complain that you're sore because you haven't been working out forever. You're like, oh yeah, I'm sore because I haven't been working out, and it's going to take time. And like you just show up and do the work.
Yeah.
You don't expect to like eat donuts and never work out and have like a ripped body. Like it's just, I think it's like that. It's like we're responsible for creating our results. And this is what's coming to me too, is like this result reward punishment system that we operate in, that's very much like avoiding punishment or like trying to get the reward, whatever that reward is. I think we're going to have the opportunity to see like what rewards and punishment systems still maybe drive us, and welcoming that information so that we can heal that and, you know, become more masterful, I guess, in the sense of like not being driven so easily by those emotional reaction reward systems.
That does sound like a child thing. Like if you're a good boy, a good girl, you're going to get a reward. It was so interesting because I had like a text conversation with a friend last night, and we're talking about, you know, self-soothing. And I was like, you know, in the work that I do, like I help a lot of people hold space for them. And I was saying that it's so much more challenging sometimes, honestly, to hold space for yourself, you know? And I was like, I'm working on nurturing my own inner child, you know, and, I've done so much inner child work, but the you know, the inner child, the wounded inner child in us, it needs like a lot of attention. I'm like laughing because I'm like, a lot of attention.
Yeah. So. And I think it's like a good sign too to know when, I think a symptom of not giving ourselves those things that we need, those soothing, that attention, is then we start to unconsciously seek it outside of ourselves. And that's when it's like the motivation to get that person's approval or get that extra, you know, dollar, and that really like kind of icky way. Like it doesn't really feel completely right, but it looks good on paper.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If it's gonna come back around, like I think the karmic cycle of like, yeah, I think act for your future self and like what you're trying to grow, and really just focusing on that. I think that's the gift of the Saturn Neptune quality, is like it's really grounding our ideals, our spiritual ideals, that Neptunian quality of like, you know, being connected to something greater than ourselves, having some sort of vision for the potential of the future. And then having Saturn come in and be like, okay, how do you show up for that? Not just when it's like you're doing a podcast and you're talking about it, but how do you show up with it in the moment to moment kind of circumstances? I think that's what we're working to align with.
It's like it's a full-time job, people. I mean to be attuned, like I think about it, I'm like, goodness, you know, it doesn't matter where you are, there's always more work to be done, but it's not a bad thing. Like I do like the challenge of it. I think sometimes it can be frustrating. I like to find out what's underneath everything. That's why I like astrology so much, because it really highlights like where we are collectively. And like you and we both tap into the collective consciousness, you know, and so like, you know, through dreams. And like for me, for many years, I would whatever was the big hit coming in, it would come through my body as a physical energy or emotion, and I would feel myself purging and processing all this stuff. And then I realized after some time, like, this is not even mine. Like, what's mine, you know? But So I had to learn to be like, okay, what's mine and what's not mine? Because I'm not responsible, I'm not responsible for purging out everybody's stuff. Just because I'm a healer, an empath, and a triple Pisces doesn't mean my job. I have to take care of me. That's my job, and I need to, take care of me, be responsible for me, and then take care of my clients. We have all have what we're set to do. So we have to just do the best in navigating what's in front of us and our own emotions. Because when we tend to our own being, then we are actually helping stabilize much more than if we're trying to change everything in the world at once. Everybody wants to see these big changes, but they all happen in minuscule ways inside of us, shifts inside of us. So that's a big thing. I think a lot of people, especially empaths, are like, we have to carry the whole world on our shoulders. We're responsible for this big shift, And while there is some truth that we're completely tapped into it, we are responsible for ourselves. That's our first responsibility, our well-being.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think that for the astrology in January, definitely tending to those habits and like the habits that we want to build and the habits that, we still have, they still come up. Like the image that I have is there's a talk from Pema Chodron, a meditation teacher, and she talks about how the detox, like the spiritual detox, is when we find these habits, we witness these habits in our mind, and we decide to stop feeding them. But it's like a wheel that you've been kicking. It's spinning. You've been kicking it for years and years and years, your whole life, right? And now you're like, you see it, and you're like, oh my God, this wheel, I could just stop kicking it. So you make a decision, you commit to not kick it, but the wheel doesn't stop spinning because it's been being kicked for years. So that's the part where it's like just releasing and untangling ourselves from those old patterns and having the resolve and the commitment to do the work. We've done so much work, but are we going to show up still with some humility and grace? Or is it going to be like, I've been there, I've done that, I've healed myself, like not my problem. And that's I'm like, astrology could go that way. Yeah.
Because I'm like, I wish it was that easy.
I think that happens though. I think our egos, there's like that spiritual that righteousness, right? And the whole Jupiter Neptune square could also be like getting lost in the journey that we're on and feeling like forgetting that we had somewhere, like some kind of ground to walk on, and we're just like trying to be all things to all people, go to all places, and just be this huge spiritual like guru, but it's like not being able to be kind to the person who is standing in front of you at over the counter or something, And then also there are the squares that we talked about, but then also there's some beautiful aspects happening with Venus and Mars. There's going to be a trine when Venus enters into Sagittarius, and later in the month there's going to be a trine between Venus and Mars, and Jupiter's also going to be there. So there's like this integration, I think, of the masculine and feminine, and this kind of I think we can find our flow as far as like the dance goes, and like taking, it's just learning the steps. So like that's a great image, is like we're at a dance class and it's our dance with the universe and the co-creation of what we want. And like the interplay between us and others, and the energies that are receptive, and then also the energies that are more active. So it's like we're really just having to clean and declutter the way that we take action, I think.
Wow. What do you think the biggest theme for January is, as far as like themes go? I mean, it says, breaking habits, showing up, building self-trust, going for distance, but not for speed, which is like taking it slow and steady progress.
I mean, I think the overall theme is like showing up. The biggest thing is the eclipses, it's like these are big portals, and so there's huge cycles. Another thing that I wanted to make sure we touched on was the Uranus cycle that's closing. So Uranus is
Oh.
direct right in the beginning of the month, right after that eclipse. And it's going to close that cycle in Aries and officially enter Taurus, where it'll be until April of 2026.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a huge cycle because Uranus won't come back to Aries for another 84 years. So
Whoa.
huge. This is a huge closing. And we can think back to May of 2018. That's when it officially entered Taurus before retrograding back into Aries. And there was definitely like a big kind of like awakening and energetic like realignment that was happening. There's a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of big change. And I just think like there's a big closing. There's like a big cycle closing, and it's in these cardinal signs of like initiating action and just how we show up in leadership, qualities of leadership of yourself.
I want to ask about Mars in Pisces. Is that happening in January?
Mars is in Pisces actually right now, and then Mars will enter Aries, its home sign, December 31st, I believe, this month. So it's closing its Pisces transit soon, within a few days.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. For some reason, I thought that Mars was going to be entering Pisces in January again or something like that. But so where's Mars moving to?
Into Aries. So into its home sign of Aries. But while Mars enters Aries in January, there's going to be some squares that he's going to be making to Mercury and to some of the other players. And so again, I think it's like Mars is how we take action. It's our ego. It's our assertion, our will, our like drive to go get what it is that we want. And I think it's just being mindful that there could be some like temperamental challenges that we're meeting.
That's exciting.
Mars has a lot of is like the most brave, they say, when there's a Mars in Aries. And so I think it's like owning our bravery and our courage and like our, being willing to take risks, but not risking like just the right compromise or the right risk, I guess, is making sure that it's not, I think that there's a lot of heat. There's a lot of fire coming in January. So that's also something to be mindful of, is like, we have to channel that energy somewhere or else we're just like starting fires.
Oh, wow.
So watching the temperament, watching the ego temperament and the whole slow and steady thing that you talk about, it's also like shifting from reactive to the ability to respond. And that's what responsibility is like slowing down so that we actually have that self-assertion to like decide how we want to respond and not just being like triggered and reactivated,
So tired of triggers. Triggers be gone. I don't think that's ever going to end, but I mean, the way we deal with triggers has to be the change we want to see in the world. Not that the triggers aren't going to end, you guys. Don't worry about that. Right. So with the eclipses, so is it unusual to have 2 eclipses in 1 month, or is that pretty standard?
I would say that's pretty standard. Yeah, I would say that's pretty standard. That's usually what happens. The second eclipse is the total lunar eclipse, so it's a full moon, and it's actually the exact same day that the sun enters Aquarius. Oh, wow. And so it's a full moon in Leo, although the North Node and South Node are actually in Cancer and Capricorn. Okay. So there's like a combination of these energies, I think, that's going to be coming up. It's like a little bit of an integration of the eclipse season we had in the last year and a half coming into this eclipse season. And it's a full moon, so it is a culmination. It's like a transition and really like a bridge from all the changes and the eclipses that have been taking place in 2018. All of those major activated, portals and pathways and doorways opening. And now it's like moving into this new eclipse season. But that eclipse is pretty intense. There's
please tell. Do tell.
There's
what we're in for.
There's a conjunction with Venus and Jupiter in Sagittarius. So the two benefics of the sky are coming together, which could be like a beautiful boon of creativity and romance and pleasure and play and joy. It could also be like an overindulgence of those things. It could be like being blinded by the desire for something pretty and nice and like feeling good in the moment. They're making a square to Neptune, so it's a little bit of like the rose-colored glasses might be a little.
Not those again. Oh my gosh.
I think we can know though ahead of time, and then we can make sure that like we're seeing things clearly and not just what we want to see or we're hoping to see.
I learned my lessons from the rose-colored glasses. No.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Yeah. And so definitely like healing our perception, like you just said, like healing those old ways of viewing. Yeah. So a big culmination, I think that there's a lot of also like culminating cycles of like karmic rewards. I think that like people are going to be making progress in January. I think that there's going to be things that are finally like coming to fruition and taking form. And with that success comes an even higher call to be in integrity and a higher call to responsibility.
I'm just joking. I'm just totally kidding.
Yeah.
More responsibility. Yes, my book comes out January 11th. And I'm like, I have to be more responsible.
Well, it is true though. If you have this book that's published and it's like it's out there in the world, it does hold you to a higher standard because you have to show up as this person that you say you are, and so and I think also like
disclaimer, I state very clearly, I'm not here to be perfect. I'm here to grow and learn. Disclaimer. But I strive to achieve that evolution that I speak about because that's what we're here for after all. So
well, and I think that's so key. I'm so glad you said that because it is about showing up, just having your best foot forward step by step, and the whole idea of just doing the best you can. And that's the image of like the good sportsmanship, the Saturnian theme of like criticism could also be coming in. And I think there's constructive criticism and our ability to be available to learn from, the feedback we're getting or the things there's learning curves. And it's like, how do we show up to that? Are we willing to learn? And I think what you said is so beautiful and perfect. It's like, disclaimer, we're all just here to grow and learn. And we're just having that intention though, really having that intention and the grace to admit when that's not there and why isn't it there? Like what do we need to do to take care of ourselves, to support ourselves so that we do have the motivation to show up and we do have the desire to like put our best foot forward.
Yeah. It's not, I think that's so important. I think especially like if you're on the quote unquote path, there's so much pressure like, I've got to be perfect all the time, or I've got to be nice all the time. And sometimes I'm not nice all the time. Sometimes, I am far from perfect. I make mistakes, but I learn really fast. And I think that's important. Like I will show up over and over again. It doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect. And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to mess up, and that's the whole point is like, I want to, especially people to know that there's this belief or underlying thing like, like if you're on the spiritual path, like you have to be perfect. And I love what you said about just showing up, because to me, that's what matters. Like, are you going to show up again, or are you just going to give up? Are you going to show up again? Like, okay, you fall on your face. Are you going to get up? We all fall on our faces. I've fell on my faces so many times. If I never got up, I'd just be, I might as well just give up. But it's like, no, you get up. You get up, you brush yourself off, you go, oops, I learned from that. And I might accidentally do it again, but I'm going to try not to, and giving ourselves a little bit of permission to have a little bit of leeway to say, keep showing up, but there's nowhere ever that you have to be perfect, because that's just sort of an illusion. Like we're here really to grow and learn. And the truth is we learn from contrast, and that's why we have those big things like the eclipses and things
Mm-hmm.
that sort of go boom and we're like, whoa, because that's how we learn from contrast. At least in this particular time, we still learn somewhat from duality, although we're moving towards ascending and transcending it, but in the meantime we're still going through the learning curves and upgrading and part of what's really helping us have that catalyst for these big shifts is shit hitting the fan sometimes, right? Like that's where we're like, oh man, I'm never going to do that again, or I learned so much from that lesson that was so painful, whatever that is. So
Yeah, and I think too, we've been building a lot of resiliency muscles over the past year. 2018 was so much growth and so much change and so much catalyst. There were so many karmic cycles opened and closed, and 2018, everybody knows, was so transformative. And we have learned a lot. I think that it's knowing that even though there's new circumstances and new people and new ways that the reality might be testing those things, I think it's like looking in your toolbox and realizing that you do have the resources, you do maybe know, applying the medicine of like applying the lessons that we have learned, as well as continuing to refine and refine. But yeah, like being a master of ourselves and, approaching ourselves and our circumstances as a masterpiece, as the kind of intention and focus to keep showing up, to keep learning. I think, the ability, it's okay to make a mistake, but it's like, first of all, if we can't admit we made a mistake, then we can't ever change it. If we can't admit something's not working, we can't ever change it and make it work again. So I think it's like taking a step back and reviewing, before you go into 2019, it's like, what have you tried? What hasn't worked? What has worked? And maybe like using that as a resource for you to go forward and to keep trying, have an inventiveness, have an openness, having that Brownian quality of like that courage to just like do something that's totally radical or something totally and just try it, like experiment, but then being willing to say like, it's maybe not just this one way.
Yeah, absolutely. I was chuckling because I was like writing down everything I learned in 2018. That's a whole book. It was so intense, but beautiful and so intense. Kind of like, it was like a hard workout that never stopped.
Right, but we've built these muscles, and it's kind of like there's no wasted opportunity. There's no experience that's wasted. It's like really that idea of almost like the composting, ideas of really like recycling the lessons and recycling the growth so that we can pave it forward to our future.
I love that. That's so my book, The Galactic Goddess, is about taking certain like lessons, and I share like not so graceful moments and some dark stuff. I share a lot of dark shadow stuff in that book too, and taking that and then learning from it, that everything, what I wanted to really convey is that everything is worthy of noting. Like there's nothing that was a waste in our life, that every single experience that we had has value, especially the things that we look back and go, I cannot believe I survived that, or I went through that, or that this happened. The things that are the hardest in the moment sometimes garner the most incredible silver lining lessons for us. So I think that's a beautiful thing that you said, that nothing is a waste. That really hit home. That just like with compost, I compost out here. We take all of the fruits and vegetable rinds and put them in the dirt to help build the soil, because that goes back into the ground and rebuilds so that we can have more nutrients. And hopefully next year I'm going to build a garden.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a perfect imagery and symbolism of exactly what we're talking about. And I think that is kind of like 2019 is very active. It's very much about like showing up, and it's time. Like it is, everything is here. It's kind of like, are you ready? Like, how bad do you want it? And what is your reason for wanting it? I think just getting really clear on that. And and just really showing up in that Saturnian way of like day by day, step by step, building a strong
Mm.
foundation, going for sustainability,
Mhm.
going for the stability that you talked about in the very beginning, and really being open to the idea of releasing old power dynamics, or
Mhm.
the hunger for this ego power or
Mhm.
whatever it is that
Mhm.
can leave us feeling kind of empty or
Oh yeah.
dirty.
That's the show. I love that so much because it's true. I think it's really about refining like what's our motivating force. Um, it's so important to do that. And it's like you can feel the difference. I can tell you can feel the difference when you're coming from a different motivating force instead of wanting this sort of achievement, rather coming from, well, it's about the big collective picture, or it's about the big picture. It's about the big
Mm-hmm.
picture. It just shifts the whole dynamic. It also helps you to relax into it, I think, too, because we put so much pressure on ourselves, and good things do take time. Please understand that, people. Everyone, like I said earlier, everyone wants a quick fix, the quick gimmick, or the quick reward, or the quick lottery, or the quick easy relationship. There is no easy relationship. If you want a
Mm-hmm.
relationship, you're going to have to work on it, and believe me, you're going to have, your partner will be your biggest mirror and challenge. They will challenge you, and if you don't like challenges, don't be in a relationship, because there's no easy relationship. There's no easy, there are ones that fit and feel divine and right, and they're mostly going to feel good. But I think anytime we engage in something that's real and authentic, there's going to be growth. There's going to be up leveling.
Right.
There's going to be breakdowns. There's going to be breakthroughs. And it's about us
Mm-hmm.
going slow and steady, and not giving up on what it is we really believe in our hearts and souls.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so much there. um, yeah, I do. I think overall it's really awakening the proper competitive spirit in us. That,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, I just keep getting the image of like being a good sport. And what does it mean? I think being being okay to be all in and be competitive and to really like go for what you want, but to be sure that you're not attached to it, and it's not just a self-serving
Mm-hmm.
motivation to the point where this is the image is like, it's like the shadow side of Capricorn could be like, you want something so bad that you go for it and you get this achievement, but you're all alone. Like no one's there with you at the end. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have anybody to like share this reward with. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
the whole compromise, and like, yeah, not just like paving such a fire way forward that you burn other people
Mm-hmm.
around you or burn bridges. I think it's important that we are tending to the bridges and tending to the
Yes.
connections and the
Yeah.
people, and really like keeping that, nourishing that as well.
I love that. That's so much my goal for 2019 personally, is more community and co-creating with others. And that's why I created Rada Publishings too, is because I'm going to do a collective book series to invite other people, because I want to play with others. I love writing. I love hearing people's stories. Like I want to hear
Mm-hmm.
other people's stories, and I want to weave them together and see, how do all of our stories, though we may come from totally different backgrounds, how do they weave together? Because I believe stories, deep stories, personal stories, intimate stories, bring us together. In the past, we used to sit around campfires and do ritual storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
in the very past, and that's how we handed down stories. But we've sort of come far from that, and now we're not connected to our stories and how they weave together. And I think that's where a lot of healing, because I used to sit in an office in my home, and see people in Studio City Hills, and I would sit in front of people and I'd hear stories after stories after stories, and part of my job was to be able to hear people's stories. And so what I realize is that our stories all have a thread that weaves through them. So
Mm-hmm.
if we can find more similarities, and instead of the separateness that is going on, the division, how can we be more related? You know, how can we come together? How can we unite? How can we find the similarities rather than amplifying all the differences between us is really what I think is important.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying too is it's so valuable, it's so true. It's like it's a truth that never gets old, like that. It's all really true. And in the sense of like we're all always beginners, like we're all always learning. But I think that there's another thing to think about too is there's probably people who have done it before. So I think in that mindset of being a learner is like learning from the right people and reaching out to people and receiving support, because I do think that there's like we're doing new things, we're living completely different lives than I bet if everyone thinks about 1 year ago from today, completely 180, completely like a different world that we're living in. And so yeah, like getting the support, investing in the support and the connections and the stories and listening to people share, you know, who have done that, and not mirroring and mimicking. Like we're not doing it exactly like that. We still have to keep that inventiveness and that authenticity. But yeah, like you don't have to do it all by yourself. You don't have to figure it all out. Like there's probably somebody who's done it and can help you, you know?
Yeah, that's so true. I think it's important that we learn from each other. And that's why it's also awesome. You know, astrology is an incredible thing. There's so many tools. Astrology is great because it really maps out where you are in your chart, what you know, what you need to learn. Probably you guys should check out Sarah's website and maybe get a reading, because that's a great way to tune in to your understanding of yourself. And I think that's really what it comes down to. Understanding ourselves helps us be more related to understanding others, you know, when you take time to invest. And I mean, I've invested so much in my healing work and all of the things that I do because I'm worth it. You know, I've always thought I'm worth it and you're worth it. Like you're worthy of investing in understanding yourself and metaphysically too. Like it's not just like just working out at the gym and looking super hot, like investing in how you look. It's about investing on your inner world that keeps expanding, you know, that keeps growing. Right. We want to grow from within. And balance it also like with yoga and exercise, obviously. But so many times, like in our society, we're like, we want to look the part or look the image, or it's about, it's like, if you look good, then you're all good. If it looks good on paper, then it's all good. But so many people that have it looking good and on paper and, you know, in person, it's not feeling good inside. So how do you create balance? Because your inner world is just as important as your outer world. They're not separate. They're coexisting at the same time.
Oh, for sure. And I think that that's where the maturity and the responsibility come in, is like taking care of our health and making healthy decisions and making healthy choices. Again, the prioritizing, and really having that focus and having that long-term picture overall. It's like we're, you know, like you said, you're composting and in the future you're going to grow this garden, but it's like there's just these steps we have to take in order to build this foundation, in order to build this health from the inside out. So continuing to tend to the work is definitely something to be mindful of.
Beautiful.
And do the step by step.
Yeah. But also don't forget to have fun. Don't forget to have fun. You gotta have fun too.
Well, I think if we're doing what truly fills us up, what we're truly called to do, like if we're really in alignment, then the work is fun. It's not separated. It's not this like all work, all play. It's like whistle while you work. Like it's like doing the work that
I love
you
that.
want to do. Yeah. So I do think have fun, but I think January is kind of like a no nonsense, get to work kind of month, and I think that it will pay off like in the long term. So really,
I just got shivers when you said that. I'm like, no nonsense, get to work on a month. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but I think it's like a deeper joy, because you know that it's like that deeper satisfaction that you're showing up for and doing something that has really like good value, you know, not just like like you said, not just to like look good in the moment, but it's like to feel good about the work you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And giving yourself that credit, it's like we have to self-soothe, and then we also have to
Yeah.
self-encourage and
Yes. And then,
validate. It's
and
like
by the
both of
way,
them.
I just want to insert that there's nothing wrong with being proud of what you're doing, guys. Like, part of being human also is having an ego and being like, this is what I'm creating, this is what I'm doing, and I'm proud of it. Like, when you're doing great work in the world, be proud of the work that you're doing too. I see so many like incredible starseed light workers that are so shy to share their magic, and I'm like, no, share it. You got something to share. You're contributing. Share it. Like, why would you withhold your magic and wonder and your arts and your gifts and your music and all of the skills that you have? We're here to share because we inspire others. When people share their beautiful work with, in any way that they do, especially artists, I'm so inspired, and I love sharing the work I do. And I think that's part of the fun. As kids, we used to be like, I drew this, look at my drawing, like we used to be more playful about it. And now there's this sort of like, well, especially I think for like I said, again, light workers who feel like, oh, I shouldn't because that's my ego. And it's like, oh gosh, please. Like, if you have something awesome to share, please share it. Like, that's just ridiculous. Like, I don't feel shy about sharing anything I do, because why? I put my heart and soul into it, and it's my life force. It's my magic. When I share, it's from my heart and soul. So why would I be shy about that? I know that it's uplifting and positive contribution. Just like these podcasts that we do and these shows, like, we create them and share them because they're from our heart and soul. We want to help contribute. This is our way to help educate people or share with people. Whatever your skill set is, whatever you're meant to do, please do it, and know that you're worthy and deserving of sharing your magic with the world. So with that, I
love
just
that.
want to say thank you, Sarah, for coming on. If you have anything else you'd like to share before we depart, I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. No, I'm wishing everybody so much well wishes and just exciting change and time and new beginnings really coming to fruition this next month. And I hope that everybody has, that encouragement and that enthusiasm that you talked about to really feel empowered to go for it, like whatever it is, to like really go for it and to just do what you need to stay grounded and connected to your own system of values and measurements, so that we can collectively, through our individual choices, restructure the systems and the power dynamics. It's like putting the power back into the heart and the heart of humanity. Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm excited. It's gonna be awesome.
I'm so excited too. Thank you. Thank you guys for joining us. I just wanted to send out so much love. Know that you are worthy and deserving of your dreams, your aspirations. Drop into your heart and feel into it, because your heart is your greatest navigation and your greatest tool, and you are worthy of your heart's desires. So have the courage to step forward in your truth, to forge your own path and purpose. You don't have to do it like anyone else. You can do it just the way that you are divinely meant to do. And with that, we send you so much love. We do love and adore you, and wishing you the best for 2019.